We made a new friend. It's Merc, a fun new friend of the show, joining Hedwig and Carlo. It makes me all tingly in my insides. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Probably Bad Podcast, a podcast which is definitely bad. I'm Pencil.
I'm Paper, and we made a mistake.
Yes, we watched the third Dungeons and Dragons movie, The Book of Vile Darkness. It's not very good.
The title of this episode was a joke. But then we watched the movie, which is the horniest thing I've ever seen. Because evil makes you horny, and everyone in this film is canonically evil. Apart from, like, 2 people.
It's the Evil 2, like the kind of, haha, I'm going to spend all my time cackling about how weak my family were for being killed by an avalanche kind of evil. Yeah, the nominal premise of the film is, but there is the Book of Vile Darkness, which was made by Naboo the Fowl, and also made out of Naboo the Fowl.
I don't think it was actually called Naboo, but that's what it sounded like. It's like Nagrul or something
I
like
think
that.
I think it was spelt differently, but I'm pretty sure it was pronounced Naboo. Which I guess I don't know when this was made, but
2012.
oh, okay. In that case, yes, I can absolutely blame them for that.
On a budget of $12 million, which is nothing for a fantasy movie, and you can tell.
But yeah, anyway. So they made the Book of Vile Darkness. It was split into 3 pieces. Those 3 pieces were scattered around the world. And then this doesn't fucking come up for most of the movie. Like, there's an offhand mention about finding the pages, but for most of the movie, all of this story of this evil wizard who used the Book of Vile Darkness to bring about an age of eternal darkness is not relevant to what's happening.
Yeah, so we have a brand new paladin who follows Palo, the god of light, called Grayson. All of his order gets killed right after he's recruited. And then he joins a bunch of bad guys who are looking for the cover of the book. Yeah, they need a horn so they can find the cover, so they can find the pages. And it's unclear why he joins them apart from vaguely to stop them.
Yeah,
we find out later that his dad has something to do with it, but that was not mentioned earlier on in the film.
But yeah, he's
because his dad is the Buddhist man.
Yeah. And yeah, you got the sort of 3 evil stereotypes. You got the big, savage, vaguely racially uncomfortable villain. You got the weird, honourable villain who rambles these weird anarcho-capitalist rants about how evil the strong will dominate the weak and law is a restriction or some such bullshit. And you got the sexy femme fatale villain who bones the hero. That's her thing.
Don't forget that one of those villains is played by the one person of color in the film, but is painted white. Just for extra points, I guess.
It's not a very good film, again, as we're saying. Like, I think, yeah, the only vaguely good scenes that worked, it had what's called a slaymate, which is like an undead child, and that was legitimately quite creepy. It was sort of had a child's voice dubbed over the creepy zombie thing.
Yeah, I think that's where 10 of the 12 million went.
Yeah, like that one was like legitimately good monster. I'm finding it hard to think of anything other than that one scene.
I guess the sex scenes were good if you like sex scenes.
Yeah.
Like at
So
one
yeah,
point they cut to a bunch of women having sex in a pool for no apparent reason. We never find out who they are. They're just evil lesbians who
they
exist.
were. It was hard to tell, but they were having sex on top of the Goliath villain. He was lying
I
under them in the
completely
pool.
missed that he was there.
No, he was lying under them.
I was
Yeah,
distracted by the evil lesbians.
just a totally random point. Like that scene was never brought up again and had no build up. And it's the same thing keeps happening that we just keep having scenes of also the villains are getting laid, just so you know.
Yeah, like the only sex scene, because there were multiple sex scenes, the only one that really contributed anything, but was still unnecessary, was the one between Grayson and the evil sorceress in the party, because there was a whole thing of like, oh, I'm good and you're evil, but we love each other, but it can never work.
Yeah,
Which honestly was
yeah.
the closest that the film came to being emotionally interesting.
Yeah, like it had because the idea of a paladin has to infiltrate a group of bad guys. That's not necessarily impossible to do well, but it was
But
just
Brian Rudnick didn't do it.
like his thing when he first infiltrated the bad guys to show how evil he was to steal one of the villains' chairs, which he just sat down in their chair to show how he was evil.
It's,
And he was just
I don't even know.
the entire thing had the feel of like an undercover cop who is like, "Hello, I would like to purchase your drugs. Could I please record you saying yes, I will give you a drug?" Like he was still wearing his paladin armor for the entire movie as he tried to infiltrate the bad guys.
Yeah, the only concession that he made to like, oh, I have to not look like a paladin is I'm gonna hide my Palor amulet, I guess, just in my pocket. It's unclear where he put it.
He
But
puts it down his shirt, I believe. It's
but
still around.
like you said, he's still wearing like the full on Paladin
Yeah,
of Palor uniform, the like shiny armor and the big dramatic cloak and everything. Like the guy
yeah,
does
like it's
not
still around.
look. Everyone else looks evil. TM. He's just
Yeah,
a
like
guy.
yeah, he looks. Because yeah, I'm pretty certain he still has it around his neck. He's just put it down his shirt. That's the entirety of the disguise he's done.
Well, because he's so good, he's not very good at deception, obviously.
Yeah, he's just and like the villains don't ever suspect this. Like one villain suspects this, and everyone else is like, you're rescuing hostages, but you say you're doing it evilly, so clearly.
Yeah, he's either got a very high persuasion stat or everyone's an idiot. And honestly, given this entire film, it could equally be either.
So the thing is, very little happens in this movie. Like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of a synopsis, but it's hard to give a synopsis because so little happens.
it's basically, um, yeah, the knights get killed. He finds the bad guys that are looking for the horn to find the book. Um, they kill a dragon for some reason, unclear. Um, and then like an hour later, they find the slaymate. Nothing really happens in that hour except for the sex scenes.
Yeah,
Um,
the Slaymate's sort of guarding the way to evil land.
yeah, the
I
slaymate, I
think the
think,
shadows fell.
the slaymate is guarding the cover of the book.
Yeah,
'Cause
and if
when the
yeah,
when Pencil said the book is divided into three parts, it's not in the way you would think. It's the cover, the pages, and the ink.
they have pulled the ink off the book.
So yeah, the ink, they're gonna replace it with liquid pain extracted from the purest soul they can find that happens to be Grayson's dad. Who I feel sorry for the guy that plays Grayson's dad because he was in some proper like BBC acclaimed dramas, and then he was in this, and then most of his credits have things like additional voices, or he's in like half an episode of something, and I feel bad for him because he can act. He's the person who can act in this film.
Like the scenes with him in are the only ones that have sort of any sense of emotional like investment. Like his son finds him and reveals that he had to like betray his pals in order to do it, and he sounds like he is conflicted on this, as opposed to everyone else who sounds like they're killing maniacally or pretending to cackle maniacally.
Yeah, like Anthony Howell, we support you, and I'm sorry that this film presumably is the thing that did that to your career.
The ending was the ending is
Mm.
so it turned so there's a book guy, and also one other thing I did like is that they did have actual like prestige classes from the Book of Vile Darkness, which is it's neat if you've read the thing. Like,
It's
I recognize that guy.
something.
But yeah, the big bad is a swarm of bugs in a human suit, vermin lord. And they kidnap this guy and reveal, haha, I knew you were a paladin all along because you're dressed like a fucking paladin. Like he halfway through, he sees him with his paladin amulet out, and he's like, and it's presumably at that point, he's like, so you're a paladin, but it's just sort of like, you're a paladin because you're clearly a fucking paladin. But anyway, he kidnaps the paladin, Grayson, and they start torturing him for liquid pain, and then he shoots everyone with lasers, and they all die except the hot sorceress lady. And she's like, I mean, she's basically like, it's time for a sexually charged hero villain relationship, and teleports away. Like,
Yeah, I
she's
think
pretty
that
close, just
character was
fucking
called
saying.
Carlotta, but it's very unclear what most characters are called.
Yeah, I think she said she gets pretty close, just basically saying that. And then a swarm of bugs fly at the screen and laugh, and then that's the end of the movie. It does feel very much like they ran out of budget halfway through filming the finale, and it's very possible they ran out of budget halfway through
Yeah,
filming the finale.
because they have like the Vermin Lord uses something that looks kind of like insect plague, and there's the Slaymate, and I think that is where all of the budget went. Like, I can't find any information on like the actual production process of this film because I guess no
Because
one
there
cares
wasn't
enough
one.
to put that information online. But I do have a strong suspicion that they basically just couldn't, so they didn't.
Yeah, like the trouble is, it's hard to sort of give an interesting view out of it just because very little happened. It's just a bunch of evil people fucking around, giving these really, like, it does sort of show how stupid a religion based around evil is, because they're all just like, yes, we're going to bring about an age of darkness where the weak will be chaff before us, and you just all sound like a 14-year-old who's read Ayn Rand for them.
Yeah, it's just I'm struggling to articulate my thoughts because my thoughts are basically the word no written in 10-foot neon letters.
Like, if what you want is a bunch of D&D sex scenes interspersed with very bad philosophy and the most blatantly fucking heroic Manyuki man, he just walks in and steals their chair and is like, see, do I look like someone who cares about chair rights? And he's just so bad at evil.
The problem is, yes, you do. You look like the one person that cares about chair rights.
Yeah, like the villainess, who, again, evil sorcerer, she's hot. She just falls in love with him immediately. and she just spends the entire movie trying to get with him. And the Slaymate is repulsed by her because she radiates love or some bullshit like that. And it's just really, she's just like, she's sort of a character who's very clearly putting out over to be a love interest, which makes it really weird that she's one of the two big bad.
Yeah, I have a theory about her attraction to him, because we know that good girls love a bad boy. So obviously what's happening is that bad girls love a good boy.
Yeah,
And presumably
girls
neutral
love
people just all go hook up with each other, yeah.
Yeah, but it is like, yeah, it does feel like the mandatory love interest has become the big bad, but not in an interesting way, just in the sense that, like, she's not
Yeah, at
doing
the end of
evil
this, they
things.
just agree to disagree. They're like, oh, well, if it comes to a fight later, maybe I'll kill you, maybe I won't. And she's like, yeah, maybe. And that's their last interaction.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, you did try and plunge the world into eternal darkness and
But
crush the
you're a
weak
good
before
lay.
you. Yeah. Yeah, basically. And he's like, there's so many fucking sex scenes. They won't stop. It's just like every so often the plot will stop and it's already like fucking slow enough. I'm sorry swearing a lot. This is a very bad film. But the plot will just stop.
It's okay.
The plot will just stop, and then there will be a sex scene where one of the villains is just mentioned lying under a bed of writhing, sexy women, and then we'll just go back to the plot, and it feels like it's being written by someone who's too horny to screenwrite, and the only way they can get around it is to occasionally stop screenwriting and writing their softcore pornography. And then they get that out of their system and go back to screenwriting. Like, it does have the same feel as the Book of Vile Darkness, the RPG supplement, in that it's clearly someone trying really, really, really hard to be edgy with no understanding of any kind of deeper themes or like coherence or story writing.
I should mention that this man has written. Yeah, he also wrote Wrath of the Dragon God. Um, but the other things he's written are very tonally different to this. He wrote a film about a teenage Iranian refugee in the 80s who joins a wrestling team. A film where a single father meets a woman who's a perfect mum for the kids and is actually an angel. And and a film where a widow needs to save her ranch by working with convicts to rehabilitate some wild horses. Like, what is this man's career?
So, as a theory, this plot
I should
is
also
like.
mention this is the only one of those films that he wrote on his own.
Yeah, so this plot is, a paladin who's clearly the good guy, badly infiltrating the villains and imitating badness. And this movie is a movie made by someone who writes things about angels helping widowers and old ladies, helping convicts by having them rehabilitate horses. Trying to write the worst possible, like, evil edgy movie, and it's actually a deep meta analysis on his career.
That is the only explanation I will accept. Because the alternative is that, the first one was pretty decent. This was made by a production company owned by the by the director and producer of the first one. So the other alternative is she just went, yeah, I guess, and let this happen.
It is, but yeah. So I would not recommend this movie. I don't think.
No.
There's a
You could
scene.
get the same experience by going onto AO3, finding something tagged with Dungeons and Dragons and with porn without plot, and then finding the worst rated one and acting it out with a bunch of random people you found in a pub.
Yeah, it's sort of porn that's trying really hard to have, but it's not doing very well at it.
Mm.
And because it is just there's so little plot. Like the Book of Vile Darkness is introduced sort of at the start, and then it comes up again at the end, and in between, like even without the sex scenes, they're just walking vaguely around, doing nothing of any particular interest.
Yeah, like they talk to a mayor for a while because they need to get. I think they get the horn. No, the mayor knows where the horn is. They have multiple scenes where they're just yelling back and forth negotiations with the mayor to find out where the horn is.
Yeah,
And they kill a dragon in like 3 rounds, and that is everything that happens in between the first and last 20 minutes.
it's sort of weird. It's
Bearing in mind
weirdly,
this film is 86 minutes long. There's
weird,
40 minutes of nothing.
it's both weird. Weirdly, it's both incredibly convoluted and completely lacking in any kind of because characters will just show up and you're like, who the fuck's this character? And then that character will die. And then it will just. It always feels like you're missing a scene, possibly a
Mm.
scene that was replaced with an orgy. But yeah, every scene feels like. Every scene feels like when you walk into a TV show halfway through an episode and have to try and figure out who these people are, what's going on. But it's the entire movie.
Yeah.
The
I
fact that I can't remember any of the major characters' names except Grayson possibly says something.
And that's mostly because because I kept saying Grayson in like
Yeah.
the heavy rain voice.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, if you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't know what his name was. The characters are, as I said, they're the 3 evil stereotypes. I guess you have also the evil, manipulative, haha, what is my nefarious secret agenda villain. But yeah, you got 4 evil stereotypes, 1 good stereotype.
And a chair thief.
That's a chair thief. There's there's scenes where the guys are tied up shirtless and have their pains sucked out, and it all feels very. It all feels like they're getting off on it, even when it's not an explicit sex scene. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think Paper said that they wouldn't have got into D&D if this was their first introduction to D&D,
I absolutely would not.
which I feel
It's
sums up
just
the
the
movie.
worst parts of high fantasy.
Yeah, I think it's sort of. I think it. Yeah, if you were to take that terrible campaign you had with a bunch of edgy 14-year-olds before you understood nuance and stuff enough to realize what you were doing was a bit fucked up, or if you took any random RPG from our horror stories and you made that into a movie, that's kind of what it's just not good.
It really isn't. And at the risk of continuing to rant about it for another 20 odd minutes, thank you for listening to us rant about that film for 20 odd minutes.
You can watch it if you want. I wouldn't.
Mhm.
Honestly, you could probably find better porn, even if that's what you're into. You can find porn with better plots, to be honest.
I mean, I do not watch the porns, but
Same, But, you know.
I'm assuming most of them have a better plot.
So, yes, thank you for listening to the angry rant about this film we just watched, poorly disguised as a podcast.
Yeah, we have email and stuff. If you have a question for the podcast or just want to tell us how you feel about this film, can email probablybadpodcast@gmail.com or message us on Tumblr at probablybadrpgideas. And we have a Patreon where you can get access to homebrew stuff such as elemental worms and bonus episodes and a Discord server. And I don't know why my voice is doing this. At Patreon, probably bad RPG ideas. I'm not gonna say remember to have a probably bad day because that film was so bad. I need some good in the world. Remember to watch some good media.
Remember to have a probably good day.